Generations Bank has been serving the financial needs of the Finger Lakes region since 1870. Generations combines the best of modern banking with dedication to the local community. Visit them at mygenbank.com. Generations Bank, member FDIC, and equal housing lender.
Hey everybody, Paul Russo here for Concrete Jungle, a New York baseball podcast. Bit of a different situation here today. Just going to do a quick hit here, get you guys caught up and updated. Kyle having a little bit of technical difficulties today, so just me. We'll run through some of the hard-hitting stuff here and get everybody out and on the way for the weekend with our New York baseball brethren. Let's begin with the Yankees. Still pretty much all good on the field, all things considered. Sweeping the Twins last week on Thursday and then sweeping the White Sox over the weekend. However, a little bit of a stumble. They're looking to split with Seattle today in this 4-game set. Seattle took the first two with the Yankees answering back last night, Wednesday night, in a pretty big way. Not ton to really discuss overall once again with them. A couple of the bigger things, Clark Schmidt tipping some pitches, something he even admitted, and then you saw Luis Rojas for the Mariners say, that's kind of what the deal was. He was able to pick up and assist his teammates from there when he was out on second base. All things considered, though, no big deal, nothing illegal, nothing crazy there. I think it's more of a non-issue than anything else, but you know how baseball fans tend to react overall and how people and sports fans will maybe react to that. However, to me, it's a non-issue. Nothing crazy there. To me, the crazier part comes from off the field on the business side of the Yankees. Hal Steinbrenner coming out yesterday and discussing about a payroll that he views needs to be lower in 2025 to 2024, viewing it as non-sustainable. Bold strategy considering, the Juan Soto potential contract extension here as he enters free agency. Obviously, the Yankees bringing him over from Padres in the offseason and want to keep him. I don't know why Hale has this need of saying stuff like this when these times come up. However, he tends to make a habit of it. I view it as not the best thing for business in this situation. I get maybe the whole entire, you want to quote unquote trim the payroll. I get it, but to me, you are the most lucrative team in baseball when it comes to money. There shouldn't be a issue of having to slash quote unquote payroll in such a way, especially when there's going to be contracts coming off. Stuff's always fluid. Why you would open up the possibility of Juan Soto being a Scott Boras client to not maybe take an offer seriously now because of a statement like that is beyond me. But we've seen this deal with Hal before where kind of shoots himself in the foot. So I don't know what the full thought process is there. I'll be intrigued to see kind of how it plays out in the long run. Obviously, selfishly, I'd love for Juan Soto to stay in New York and with the Yankees as long as possible. However, I've already seen fans of other teams post on social media, about the quote-unquote poverty franchises, the Yankees, which is laughable to me in the grand scheme of it. But the way Hal Steinbrenner does act, you would think that he is John Fisher and not Hal Steinbrenner. So we'll keep an eye on that, obviously, as things get going here. And, the season kind of goes forward. We know Boris Clance will enjoy doing the mid-season thing. The Yankees here the past decade or so, give or take, probably a little bit longer, don't enjoy doing the mid-season contract talks either. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how the Juan Soto deal goes. Obviously, we've talked a little bit about the Glaber situation on previous podcasts. So it will all play out and be interesting to see kind of how it plays out here as we get going. A couple updates here, injury and transactional news with the Yankees. Tommy Kahnle reinstated from the IL. That was beginning of the day yesterday. Clayton Andrews' option back down. He was up just more or less because of Ian Hamilton was placed on a injured list. I didn't know that we really still had the 7-day COVID IL, but he is traveling to the West Coast with the team. Could be technically is activated as soon as tomorrow. Feeling good. He's traveling with the team following the game today out to Anaheim when they play the Angels. So all good on that front, the way it seems. DJ LeMahieu joined High A Hudson Valley to begin his second rehab assignment, obviously coming back from this injury to start the year. He playing with the Renegades today, and then jump up to AAA Scranton Wilkes-Barre for the 3 games this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. All goes well there per Aaron Boone, expected to be activated for the rest of the West Coast road trip for the Yankees. That would be out in Anaheim. Misspoke just now in the Hamilton stuff. They play the Padres first. We'll get to that, though, in just a moment. More on that. Scott Efros put together a good run of bullpen sessions per Aaron Boone. Again, we've been waiting for him to come back now for the better part of, a year and a half, over that even. And obviously coming back from Tommy John, and then also the back surgery now is the health portion of things that he's building back from. So wait to see how all that goes. Garrett Cole faced Oswaldo Cabrera and Jahmai Jones Tuesday and reached highs of 96 mile per hour on his fastball. Great to see. Cole said it wouldn't put him by him to see him with the Yankees in June. So it will be interesting to see how it shakes out with him, as we've been talking about, but good stuff there. Jason Dominguez, rehab assignment, has been transferred to AA Somerset. A little bit, I think, quicker than what was initially discussed between myself and Kyle here on Concrete Jungle last week, but good stuff for Dominguez here, as look like he'll be rejoining the big league roster here at some point sooner than later once again. Then as well, the Peraza activated from the injured list and option to AAA Scranton Wilkes-Barre. That was something that we hypothesized a little bit last week here on the podcast, and it looks like that came to fruition. The Yankees finishing off with the Mariners today. I'm recording here at about 11:10 a.m. as it is right now to do this quick hitter. Game, I think, is at 12:35, so I don't know if I'll get this exactly out on time for first pitch. Hopefully that's the plan for the Yankees anyway. But look to split with the Mariners here in a 2-2 in this 4-game set. Padres will wait for the weekend, an off day on Monday on Memorial Day, and then face the Angels. It's an extended road trip for the Yankees, well over 10 days technically, because of the way stuff is shifting out. Padres, Angels, Giants in that order for the Yankees here on deck in this West Coast road trip. For the Mets, has not been a good week once again. They're 2-6 in their last 8 games. Able to get the game last Thursday against the Phillies, but since then, only able to get 1 against the Marlins last weekend, and then swept by what has been a really surging and hottest team in baseball, Cleveland Guardian team. I don't know really where to fully begin here with the Mets on this situation. I think we have to just kind of jump in, and it will be part 1 of this will be now. Part 2 of it will be here in a second if you hang with me. Adrian Hauser, again, rocked. ERA is now ballooned to over 7.5. It's kind of looking like they're going to still go with him for the moment to some degree. He'd done some bullpen work, coming back in a starting role here the past couple goes through the rotation. David Peterson awaits on the horizon. Like I said, though, we'll wait more on him in a second. I don't know what the Mets can really fully do with Hauser at this point. He's a vested veteran at this point, so your only option is to designate him for assignment. You're eating money at that point because he was brought in through a trade. Don't really know if the Mets want to fully do that. The baseball guy in me says you want to hang on to an arm as long as you can anyway, because you never know when you just might need him. However, it's not really how it works every now and then. So it'll be interesting to kind of see how that goes. Edwin Diaz, struggling in the closer role, has vacated the closer role for now. Closer by committee at the moment. We've seen Jake Diekman take some of these tougher situations. Obviously, Adam Ottavino and Reed Garrett, who has had collectively a really great year. Unfortunately, blew a save opportunity here for the first time, and I don't have a problem with that. It's going to happen. I mean, we saw with the Yankees. Clay Holmes blew his first save of the year. So, I don't know if the by committee thing's the best move. I would do what was the initial thought in being Ottavino being the primary closer now, with Diaz being out of that role. I guess we'll see. It sounds like Carlos Mendoza might be just doing more of a lineup situation, who's kind of coming up and who's where. I feel really bad, though, for Edwin Diaz. This is a guy who, as we know, really good, right? And the past year and a half for him has just been miserable, injured at the peak of his powers, more or less, celebrating a win for his country in the World Baseball Classic, and this year has not been as good as himself obviously would have liked, obviously the team would have liked, and he's on the verge of a breakdown talking with the media the other day, and I just feel legitimately bad for him. I hope that he can work through this because, you have to be in such a special place mentally to be a closer of his caliber. I hope this doesn't really derail it, and I hope that he gets it figured out a little bit here and comes back like we knew him in 2022. And I guess the World Baseball Classic of 23 is as we saw what Sugar Diaz is, and coming in with Timmy Trumpet and Narcos. So I hope everything goes out there. One other interesting thing about the Mets here I want to point out before we get to some updates here on injuries and transactions, Mark Vientos, since getting called back up, has come alive, especially through the series of Cleveland. 9 of his last 27, I believe, is the number. But, this is a guy who now is batting over 357. I think he's at 357 right on the nose. His batting average for the season so far at the big league level. Brett Beatty, marred in a bit of a slump now after starting the year really hot. Baseball, that happens. But the Mets now put themselves in interesting crossroads because Mendoza came out and kind of said, like, hey, I kind of do these lineups a couple days out in front, but I also kind of ride the hot hand. Kind of have to figure out the best of both worlds. Brett Beatty, who is a lefty hitter, was out against 2 righties for Cleveland this week, where we saw Vientos get runs. I don't know what the Mets are going to do. They're at an interesting spot for them if that's the way they're going to kind of go about it for the time being. I hope personally what I would do, one of them would be getting some DH spot. I mean, we've been talking about here the past couple podcasts about just how rough the DH spots have been recently for the Mets, whether it's with DJ Stewart or JD Martinez. I don't know what the future holds kind of in the immediate for the Mets with this situation. I think you got to get both those young guys some run at this point. Because, frankly, I don't know what the point of no return is for this season. They still are relatively in it. But, losing a series to the Marlins, getting swept by Cleveland in a spot where, Lindor was not chirping necessarily, but I personally speaking, it felt like some of those comments were kind of tongue-in-cheek towards the organization. We're 2 months into this deal now. Not all hope is lost, but, going back to the comments Steve Cohen made on Twitter, you look at kind of the stuff going on right now, and they readily even admitted that they have some decisions to make here going into this homestand coming up on the schedule. It's get up or go time in my mind for the Mets this year. It's do or die. I know there's a lot of season left. It's still a young season. We're really only a third, not even really of the way through. I guess we are probably more of a third now that I'm saying it out loud, but they can't be getting away and doing what they're doing anymore, in my mind. Now, help is on the horizon. Let's jump into a couple of these updates. Francisco Alvarez will be taking some batting practice for the first time tomorrow at Citi Field. Has been playing catch with a splint in his glove to protect that left thumb. In fact, it's something that splint we could be seeing for the rest of the season with him, he said. But his progression's come along really nicely, and it's a spot I think the Mets need a little bit of help. I know catcher's defensive plus. You're not expecting necessarily a ton of offense, but Nito and Narvaez have just not been what Alvarez was to start the year, obviously. So obviously, they look forward to seeing his return, and it sounds like we're getting there pretty much with him. I'm guessing some rehab stuff might be on the way. Maybe not necessarily catching, but DHing, doing some hitting, whether, throughout somewhere in the system. It all depends where everything lines up, as we know. Drew Smith threw a bullpen session on Tuesday, but he's going to need another bullpen plus a rehab assignment, as we know. Was coming back, fell a ting in his shoulder, throwing and playing catch last week at Citi Field. So he's getting there. Just one of those weird things, the way it sounds. So Hopefully gain some help there. Brooks Raley officially out for the rest of the year. We'll be having surgery on that left UCL. Per one source, it sounds like it is going to be Tommy John, but per everybody else, they aren't sure yet. Whether it will be Tommy John or the internal brace remains to be seen. I expect, personally speaking, Tommy John, the internal brace thing, albeit great, and you can come back a little bit quicker than that from Tommy John. We're kind of seeing some interesting stuff there. Spencer Strider had the internal brace. He's going back under the knife for now, I believe it's a second or third time, in order to get that done because the brace was failing. I would just do Tommy John and move on. Puts the Mets in a bit of a lurch. Now the only lefty in their bullpen is Jake Diekman. One of their top lefty prospects is done for the year in the minors. I'm guessing, they may be sniffing around for a left-handed arm. It'll be interesting to kind of see. I know everybody's go-to lefty arm on the free agent market. Chasen Shreve recently signed with Texas. So I don't know who's really out there that they could go and get. Would imagine it's going to have to be a trade, though. Or, they sniff the minor league free agency market. I mean, Richard Blyer's a free agent right now, obviously, as we know from last week. So who knows? Who knows what we might see come of that. Kodai Senga, another step back from when we talked last week, dealing with some tricep tightness, canceled the bullpen session. He was supposed to throw last Sunday. This just sucks at this point regarding Kodai. I don't know what to expect. Expect him back. June's off the table. Really feeling like July might be off the table in my mind at this point, but nonetheless, just sucks. All right, now back to that part 2 I was talking about in regards to rotation. David Peterson has joined AAA Syracuse. Will have his final rehab appearance tomorrow, scheduled rehab anyway, tomorrow in the minor leagues with Syracuse, and then expected to be activated and join the rotation in some capacity afterwards with the Mets. Do the Mets go with a 6-man rotation? Do the Mets go with a 5-man rotation? I don't think there's a way you can leave Peterson out. He's a 29-2 strikeout to walk ratio in the minor leagues through the rehab process this year for him. I get that you're dealing with minor leaguers across all levels. It doesn't matter. That's a really great ratio for a guy who is topping mid-90s right now on his fastball, for a guy who is maybe not necessarily known for that speed element on his pitching. Man, I have a hard time believing if you're the Mets, you leave him out in any capacity. So I think if you go 6-man, I'm not a big fan of that necessarily. I don't think you necessarily need that right now. I think you go 5-man. I think Hauser, move him to the bullpen or get him right. I mean, maybe I'm not fully sure of his option years necessarily, or how many options, if he has any left necessarily. I just know because he is the vested veteran, DFA is usually where it mostly lands because of you just want to treat the guy right. Will it actually happen that way? I don't know, but I hope that is, not the case for Hauser, but hope to see Pearson back in that Met rotation next week because, he's looked really good so far in this rehab, and he's a guy who deserves it, frankly. Tyler Maygill activated off the IL. Joey Wendell officially released after being DFA'd last week. So the Mets off today, begin a homestand against some West Coast teams here the next 10 days or so. Begin with the Giants over the weekend, then the Dodgers, and I know looking way out, you got the Diamondbacks coming in, but West Coast teams coming east. Mets got 2 of the better ones here right off the bat. Before we get out of here, Rochester and Syracuse both played extremely well once again here. Rochester 4th in the IL East, 23-21, 6 games back. They're up in the series right now against Lehigh Valley. That's where they are for the week. They were able to win the series against Buffalo last week. Red Wings return home next week against St. Paul. It'll be really interesting to kind of see that series. I'm opening it up for one of those games. But the new Twins affiliate, playing against, obviously, the Red Wings, who were the Twins affiliate for years. One of the longest tenured relationships in minor league baseball up to that point in 2020. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Trey Lipscomb and Jackson Rutledge, option from Washington. They joined the team in the past week. And Jacob Lew was placed on the injured list, so hopefully everything good with him. As for the Syracuse Mets, 28-17, second in the International League East, a game and a half back of Scranton Wilkes-Barre, who they play this week. It's a huge series, that series right now on I-81. Syracuse won the series last week against Iowa, return home against next week against Buffalo, but the series in Scranton against the Rail Riders tied 1-1 right now. Huge series for both these teams. As we know the way they do the halves now, we got a month left of the first half of the season to clinch that playoff spot, and it's looking more and more likely it's going to come down between Scranton and Syracuse. It's going to be interesting to watch there. Trace Thompson, the outfielder, congratulations to him. Back-to-back weeks of the podcast, I've been able to say. AAA International League Player of the Week, coming from one of the teams that we cover. 9 of 22 last week, 6 homers, 9 RBIs, including a 3-home-run game against Iowa on Friday. So congratulations to him. Ran pitchers Troy Miller and Blade Tidwell, as long as with outfielder Ryland Thomas, assigned from AA Binghamton to Syracuse for the week. Matt Festa was assigned to Syracuse from the Mets. He was signed as a minor league free agent after leaving, I believe it was the Cubs organization a couple weeks back. Hunter Parsons and Justin Jarvis, 2 right-hand pitchers, joining the Binghamton Rumble Ponies from Syracuse. A bit of a roster swap there. So that will do it for this Quick Hitting Concrete Jungle for today. I want to get everybody caught up in some news and notes for the week. We'll be back as normal next week, as I mentioned. Me and Kyle back at it. Enjoy Memorial Day weekend, everybody. Stay safe, have fun, go catch some baseball if you can. It's going to be, for the most part, really great looking weekend weather-wise here locally. So I know maybe not necessarily. We got the pro teams going on, but I know over in Auburn they got the NJCAA World Series Division III level going on this weekend. If you can get over there, go ahead and do it, as well as a ton of local high school stuff and travel ball stuff going on as well. So have at it, go and have fun, but more importantly, stay safe as well in that sense. We'll be back again next week. As I mentioned, enjoy the weekend, everybody. We will talk later on.